Sorry about that. Here I am. I haven't hurt my neck. It's just 2 jumpers on. It was a bit of a rush from Tim's house to here. But we're here and I made it. Hello. Let's go live on Instagram. Going live. Yes, we're live. Hello, I'm Lindsay Setchell and welcome. Welcome to day 50. Gosh, 50 days. How have we done that then? And there are some of you that have gone through 50 days every day with me. And even if you haven't been able to do it live, I know many of you catch up. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for your support. Let's see what happens in the next 50. Right. Today, we're going to be talking about transitioning. Yes, transitioning from shod to barefoot. It's a big, big topic and one that is not simple. In terms of the changes that often go on in the horse's foot, but something that we try to make simple, but something that is not just about taking the shoes off. I think many owners are very keen to go barefoot. They want to go barefoot, but that thought of transitioning, that transition process can be very overwhelming. Most of the time, really, just because they don't have adequate support. They don't have adequate support from experienced people who are good at barefoot. And a lot of the times owners will listen to people who aren't necessarily good at barefoot for their opinion, who say, don't do it, it fails, when in fact it doesn't. It just means that you have to look at things in a slightly different way. And it's really important that when you are doing this, you study as much as you can about the horse's foot, right? There are an awful lot of myths. There's a lot of misconceptions around taking shoes off. And so today, I hope we're going to clear some of them up. So let me know in the comments, have you transitioned a horse from shoes to barefoot? Did you used to shoe, and how long did you shoe for, and what was the difference, and why did you go barefoot? What were the challenges you faced? Let me know in the comments and we'll see if we can chat about some of them. All right, let's do oh my god, let's do the shout outs. Heather's here, top of the shop. Hi Heather. Teresa's here. Hello. Stella's here. Good morning. Marianne Caffrey's here. Hi everyone. Thought I'd try a marigold hand. Camilla's here. Hi everyone. Camilla, remind me if you want me to talk about monobars, but I'm not quite sure whether I'll get it done in this live tonight. Tomorrow live is the live for the monobar conversation with Gary. I think that's probably when we shall do it. Okay, so get on the live tomorrow night and remind us. Right, Shannon. Hi everyone, listening while I'm doing the long drive back to northern Alberta. Where have you been? Southern Alberta. Jeanette's here. Hi everyone. Dawn's here. Hello, Phoenix friends. Connie's here. Hello. Ulrika's here. Angie Medler's here. Snowy, Virginia. Deanna's here with a marigold hand. Jenny Ackerstrom's here. Hey all. Couple more. Lydia says, hello again, everyone. Still cold here. Poor things. It's months and it's months and months of freezing cold. Somehow I feel like I'm going through it with you. There I was at the beginning going, I want snow. I'm so jealous. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know whether I do. Becky says, hello. Louise says, hello, everyone. Just finished watching yesterday's podcast. Unbelievable. The wonderful job Gary did on that poor Shetland's feet. Good work. Yes. And today, Gary shared with me a little video that is owner sent, and the ponies up and walking about independently without being kind of cajoled to do it, and look fantastic. Me want to cry. Angela Moore says, hi Phoenix family. A couple more. Sandra says, hi everyone from Czech, and Sunshine says, hello all. Okay, right, let's have a look who's on Instagram. Impotros, Anne Chopra, Kathy Yorkshire Last, James Coombs Guide. Impotros says, morning from New Zealand. Good morning. Anne Chopra is hi from Mega Winterland. Still wish it was me in a way. I don't know if I want the cold. Horses Rock 1006 has joined. Snoopy Star says, hi everyone, greetings from Switzerland. All right, so let's get into talking about transitioning. Pulling the shoes off just isn't it. Doesn't cut it, I'm afraid. Pulling the shoes off isn't transitioning to barefoot. You need a plan. If you're going to go barefoot, you need to have researched it. And of course, by then you've got totally confused because you've been onto loads of barefoot groups. You've talked about it. You've watched loads of posts and you're no wiser because you just don't know what hoof care professional to choose. You don't know whether to stay with your own farrier. You don't know. Because taking a horse barefoot it just isn't as simple as just pulling the shoes. You need a successful transition is going to need top of the very, very top. It begins with P. What is it? Patience. Because that hoof that's been in a shoe, that body that has been on top of those shoes needs time to adapt and rebuild strength. Some horses just come out of shoes and rock on. But those are not the norm because normally and that oftentimes is cobs. Cobs are very good, drafty kind of horse. Well, more cobs rather than drafties. It's more a cob thing. I think cobs really are just Shetlands that are just a little bit bigger. And they have the same mentality as Shetlands and they just rock it. They're just like, yes, it's no problem. Take them off. I don't need them anyway. Just going to storm on. Mostly. Not all. That's a bit of a sweeping statement, but that's what you tend to find. You need to get the correct trim from the get-go. It's no good just thinking that you can carry on doing what you did before when the shoe went on. No. Because this time we're trimming to the horse's natural parameters. Because it is not the same. A barefoot trim is not the same as just a foot without a shoe. Not the correct barefoot trim, not the barefoot trim that was designed over 55 million years by Mother Nature, that engineer, not that one. You are going to need to understand that as an owner, because if you don't, when the hoof care professional comes, the farrier, the trimmer, or whoever, you are not going to know whether they're doing the right thing or not. And it's so easy, isn't it, to get bamboozled by the talk. They can talk the talk, but oftentimes when they can't walk the walk and the horse starts getting problems, two things happen. One, you have to find somebody else, or two, you put the shoes back on because you've declared that your horse just can't go barefoot. Just can't. I'm just not one of those. My horse is just not one of those horses. I haven't got one. You're just lucky. You have one of those horses. And HM coined a phrase many, many years ago that all horses can go barefoot, but not all owners. And there's a truth in that because owners, if you don't get the right information, if you don't understand what has been happening to your horse's foot while it was shod, giving it, weakening it and causing your horse to not be able to go barefoot, you need to understand why that is. You also need to understand about proper nutrition. Well, I know my horse gets all the right things. I love my horse. My horse feeds no expense spared. I'd rather starve and eat beans on toast. That's what we eat in England. In the UK, it's just beans on toast. I'd rather eat beans on toast than or starve than my horse go without his incredible food. And then when we go, well, actually, that's not incredible food, all that bag stuff, all those supplements, all of those things you don't really need. What do you mean I don't need them? You don't need them. Give them to the chickens, throw them away. But really what you need is the cornerstone of the horse's diet, which is good natural long fiber, which is as mixed as possible and as not inflammatory as possible, like rye and legumous hays and cereal hays. We don't want those, or straw, for instance. We want good nutrition. And if you get the right nutrition, you don't have to go spending a fortune on all those bagged feeds and supplements. If you don't get the right nutrition, then the health of your horse and the strength and health of the hooves isn't going to get better. And let's face it, everything grows healthier from the inside out. That's how it works. Then you need to be thinking about the movement and the terrain, because that horse needs to move. If you've had your horse shod and it's been in the stable for hours and hours a day, every single day, that's not conducive to healthy body, shoes on or not. And when the shoes come off, that horse needs to work those feet and work those legs, work those muscles, work the body. The more that horse is able to move, the faster the transition is going to be. And if you don't have that right approach, if you don't have the plan, and the plan isn't that hard, really. It's a journey. You've got to remember it's a journey. You can't get everything right all at the start. I remember talking to one of our students once, and this happens to lots and lots of people. But she was just about to start her training as a pro, and she said, "Lindsay, I don't know whether I can start this training as a pro." She said, "Because I don't have the ideal environment for my horse." And she said, I don't feel like I can go and support other people if I'm not doing it myself. And I said, it's a journey. It's a journey. I guarantee to you at some point over the next 2 years and moving forward, your horse will eventually not be living in that situation. And that is where they're moving to now. Just bought themselves a new plot of land. And that's how it progresses. It's a journey. You might not be able to do everything at the start, but you don't want to halt. You don't want to be moving along and then hit a roadblock and then just turn around and go back. You need to find your way past that roadblock. How do you get through? And it's a journey. So if we don't have that right approach and a plan, then our horses can become sorer, and uncomfortable. And that will make owners really think that their horse can't cope and that they need to go back to shoes again. When in reality, they just needed the right support. You just needed the right support. I want to maybe talk to you a little bit about breaking down that transition process into more clearer steps, because if you are thinking about transitioning, and I know that many of you watching now have done all of that business, but this is really interesting stuff to be able to help your friends perhaps, and maybe tag your friends in so that they can come and listen to this. Because if you're thinking about transitioning your horse to barefoot, there are ways of doing it successfully. And number one, right at the very top, is you have to start with the healthy trim that is based on your horses, not the farriers or the trimmers or your friends' ideas. It's based on your horse's foot. Because as you know now, a proper barefoot trim has to respect the function and the balance. Now, before, when your horse was shod, you might have thought your horse had pretty feet. To us, probably wasn't. But to you, might have just looked nice and neat and tidy. And then the second your horse's shoes come off and your horse starts moving and the horse is starting to be able to start shaping its own feet again, all hell seems to have been let loose at the foot. And you might get some flares here and there, and you might get a longer toe than you were used to seeing initially. Well, that's all part and parcel of growing a better hoof capsule for your horse. You have to avoid over trimming. So when we teach our pros to deal with horses that have been shod, more often than not, the shoe comes off. They just check the balance to make sure it's not crazily off balance. And then they leave the horse alone for a good 6 weeks, because the foot needs to just relax. It needs to grow more foot oftentimes and just begin to become a foot again. And it really is quite incredible when you do this, because I know this, so many things I say sound so trite, but it's true. The foot begins to wake up. It begins to shape itself the way that it's meant to shape. And from a previously flat foot, you've now got one that's starting to get an arch in it. You're now getting one that's starting to behave better in terms of its balance and its wear patterns. So you need to know about the trim. And the best way to start doing that, isn't it, is to be in a group like this, in the Phoenix group, where we all share and show stories of journeys and transitioning. And a lot of times we're seeing these horses that are barefoot, that have really poorly feet, that we're getting back to their right foot again. And there goes the story. If you try and go barefoot and you're getting all of that advice, then you simply are not going to be able to go barefoot successfully without the right kind of trim. You need to know about imbalances. It's crazy. I am not joking. It is crazy that there are hundreds upon thousands of hoof care professionals in this world who do not know about natural dorsopalmar and mediolateral balance. That they are only just learning correct balance when they come and talk to us. Now, I know people would go, what, Scoff? You think you know everything. No. We don't take the toes off. So therefore, we know that the balance that we're giving that horse is its natural balance with its natural sole depth, palmar angle, etc. If you're taking the toe off, then you don't know how to balance a horse's foot to that horse's natural parameters. You might be balancing, but you're not balancing to that horse's natural parameters. So you need to know about these things. It's really, really, really important that you are guided by someone who has gone through it, a professional who has done this so many times, so that they can hold your hand through it and go, it's okay. These things are what are the things that are going to happen. Here are a bunch of photographs showing you transitions, because you know us, we love to take photos. And this is what to expect. We are managing your expectations. And I can tell you, if you do it properly as a professional, and you manage the expectations of an owner correctly, and you warn them about what is to come, then that is a success. That ends up usually being a very successful rehab, because the owners know what to expect right from the very start. We need to talk about the environment that we're going to put those hooves into. The hooves that transition the best are the ones that keep on moving, keep on trucking, and the ones that can travel over different terrain. Okay, maybe you don't have that. Maybe you can only put a grass track up. Maybe you can't even do that. But you've got to keep your horse moving. Move. If your horse is on a soft pasture, then you've got to think about, maybe, how do you introduce some firmer ground? Or is that going to be when you take your horse out for walks? Are you necessarily going to be jumping on board and riding out when you transition? Well, this, I think, is one of the big things that stops people from transitioning from shod to bare, because they feel like they're not going to be able to ride their horse again, or for a long time. It's not true. It's not true. It's a sensible thing to say, let's give it 6 weeks. Let's take the shoes off and let your horse just have 6 weeks of doing his own thing, marching around, good nutrition, hopefully with friends, movement, put no pressure on that horse. And then when it goes for its next trim after that, you can then measure up that horse's foot and get some boots. Now, these are animals that I'm talking to you about that there's not really a massive amount wrong with them. But what about the ones where we've got a ton of pathology, a lot of rotation? We've got pain. We've been having constant abscesses. We've got infection. What about those? Well, those are probably going to need a little bit more care from your hoof care professional more often. Not more care, the same care, but more often. Those are the ones that we need to hold your hand through for a little bit further on, a little bit longer. So it isn't a case of just jumping in, taking the shoes off, throwing them away and going, yeah, hey, we've done it. It's going to take a lot more than that. But I don't want to put you off. I don't want you to think, oh, it's just too much. It's far too much for me. I don't think I can cope. But that's not good. But it's just going in with your eyes open, right? You need to be monitoring your horse's posture. You're going to monitor for soreness. You're going to provide protection when needed. And I have to tell you right now that in all the horses that I have taken barefoot, I have rarely ever, but it's rare that the hind feet need to be booted, even when the hind feet have been shod. It's rare. It's usually just the front feet for a short period of time. Hoof boots are incredibly important in this world, and I am so glad that they have grown to become a tool in the tack room, or a piece of tack that everybody should have, because there are just times when your horse might need hoof boots for whatever reason. But usually it's at the start, and it's during the transition phases, especially if your diet and management isn't so great. Also pads, but you've got to make sure you get the right boot, the right pads. You don't want wedges. Never, ever, 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 ever get a pad that's got a wedge in it. Don't do that, because that can add to more problems. But pads can help that slight cushioning effect if that horse hasn't got a lot of sole depth. You need to prioritize movement and circulation. So if the foot isn't comfortable, then they're not going to move much. And we really need that, don't we? We need to increase that blood flow, strengthen that in those internal hoof structures, and encourage as much natural movement with as much turnout 24/7, preferably, as possible. And as we move on, that regular, gentle, natural exercise can be turned into the exercise that you want to do with your horse as well. And that will also help to speed up transition. We want it to be a curve where we are getting better and better and better, but we're going to have dips along the way. That will happen. It will happen. It's just nature. That's just what happens when we're rehabbing these feet from being in these crutches, which are not even helpful crutches most of the time, although most owners don't realize that. When you're transitioning them out of that, then that's a big thing. You really do need to understand a little bit more about the horse's gut. Of course, if you did the 15-day challenge, we talk about that in great length. I do lectures on it, and I also do some presentations on that, talking about the gut, talking about the different parts of the gut and why these different feeds, etc., affect them and what affects them. If you know that, you're going to be better informed to understand why your hoof care professional is saying ditch all the bag feeds for at least 6 months. Ditch the bag feeds, strip the diet out, ditch the supplements, get on that mixed meadow hay for at least 6 months. By the time you get to the end of 6 months, you're going, but it doesn't need it. We're having that low sugar, high fiber diet, because excess sugars are going to spike the insulin levels, and it's going to weaken the whole body as well as the foot. So when we talk about balanced minerals, when we're talking about all those famous ones like zinc, like copper, like biotin we were talking about the other day, that supporting good growth and supporting a good metabolism, I think it's really important to understand that if you give your horses the mixed fiber that they need, the bacteria help to provide a great deal of those vitamins, and you also have a well balanced microbiome from having those mixed forages, those mixed meadow hays. And I know it's very difficult, and I know a lot of people say I can't. I get that. I do. I understand that. But like I said, it's a journey, and we must move towards it and not keep dropping back to either the easiest option or the option that, is what we've always done. And finally, you just need to be patient, and you need to track your process. Oh my God, you need to take photographs, because once it's happened, and you'll not remember. So it's not an instant thing. It's going to take several months. Doesn't mean to say your horse is not going to be sound for several months. It could take longer than that. It could take over a year. But you need to watch what happens. Take photos every trim, every 4 to 6 weeks. Track those changes. You're going to expect some flaring, probably some chipping. We've got some weak hooves in there that have had nails hammered into them for a while. You're going to expect changes. The hoof is adapting to being it's responding to its environment now. So if you follow those steps, if you follow that plan, then you are going to set yourself up to be far more successful, and your horse is going to have more of a comfortable barefoot transition. Okay, let's see who else is here. We have got Sarah FKH, Vile Dating is here, Laurie Depassmore, Briar's here, Briar Hadfield, hello darling. Von Met is here. I read that as something else then. Okay, where were we? Fiona, hi all, she says. -5 degrees here in southern Alberta. Caroline's here. I'm going to whiz down through you. Tara's here. Wisdom Wednesday. Garvin's here. Lydia says, why do we see laminar separation when in fact it is laminar stretch? The laminar structure is well intact. Isn't that fair to say? It still needs more research, but it doesn't need more research on what's causing it. It needs, because we know that we know that it's incorrect hoof care, although the science community would like to have you believe that that's not what it is. It is, and we're proving that. What we would like to see more researching in is the rehab phase. Why are we able to take these horses with a lamellar wedge and grow that out, and what happens to the tissues inside? And that's almost impossible to find out, because you can't, it's not ethical and not right to put an animal down that's rehabbing, of course. I mean, I even can imagine I'm even saying that, but I'm not advocating that. But they need to be able to, we need to know what's going on. We don't know. All we do know by doing these rehabs, taking these x-rays, is that it does grow out, but it's not quick, because most times the hoof wall has been tampered with and damaged. And so therefore there is the foot is responding to trauma all the time. Like Gary and I say a lot of the time, the foot actually is quite consistent in the way it responds. Which is why we are so more able to bring a foot back to its natural foot fairly quickly, like Gary was presenting to you last night, because we know those constants, we know those consistencies in the foot. But what really is going on, where Pollitt used to talk about, or did talk about, and did prove that the MMP enzymes that go into nip overdrive, causing those laminae to be deformed as the basal membrane starts to be affected, is, I'm afraid, now been tainted by the fact that he believed totally that that's what caused P3 rotation, and in fact it didn't. And we now know that P3 rotation in itself, just not having the palmar processes, those angles in the right position for any length of time, is going to cause an effect on those laminae. So laminitis research needs a whole new start. It needs to stop, and it needs to start again, and it needs to focus on hoof care first. They didn't. On all of these experiments, they ignored the hoof capsule. So that's what we need to focus on. I've gone off again. It's terrible. I'm always doing that. Caroline's here. I don't even know if I answered your question, Lydia. Caroline's here. Monica's here. Hello. Teresa's here. Connie's here. She says, yesterday's Gary trimming those coat can feet. Wow, that poor pony. I hope she's doing okay. She's doing great. She's doing great. She's up. She's walking. We're only 3 full days since Saturday night he did it. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And she's up walking. He got a video this morning. It's absolutely fantastic. Lynn's here. Jeanette says, if Lindsay doesn't get online soon, she'll spend the whole life doing shout outs. I know, right? Let's keep going. Blah, 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 blah. Charlotte's here. Christy's here. It was great to meet you earlier. You're very welcome. Jackie's here. Let's keep going down. Let's keep going. What did it? No, we complete. Many years ago, says Gail, I put shoes on a little Arab mare so my husband could take her on a Montana hunting trip. We were told she'd need them. Utterly ridiculous. Yeah. Jane's here. Good evening. Louise says, wonderful. Bring tears to my eyes. Finally, some relief. That's awesome. Yes, transitioned my horse to barefoot in 1996. He was sore immediately, and this was when I knew nothing. I asked my farrier why he couldn't walk comfortably on his own feet. Got him comfy in the end. Well done for persisting. And we didn't have all the information back then either, nor did we have the support of all the hoof boots we've got nowadays. So well done you. Angela Garberg's here. Bonsoir. Alexandra's here from New Zealand. Charlotte says so wonderful about that little Shetland. So it is indeed. Thank you. Dawn says, yes, Woody had been shod all his life and was diagnosed with NPA. And you know what? A diagnosis, it sounds like it's a disease, doesn't it? NPA is just an imbalance. It's like diagnosed with rotation. It's all caused by imbalances and suspensory ligament damage. And is there any wonder that these animals are getting tissue damage from being in imbalanced hooves for so long? So many millions of horses walking around the earth in feet that are not good for them. I had shoes taken off 3 years ago, and then I took up trimming him myself. Well done. Marianne says, used books by Strasser and Jamie Jackson. So did I, right at the very beginning too. Ali's here. Anita says, howdy. Celia's here. Nearly missed you, but you didn't. Pia says, I have my 1-year badge. Yay. Do you get given them, or is that just something that you've just, yes, 1 year. Sandra Khan's here. Hi, everyone from Costa Rica. Dawn says, all I can say is thank goodness I watched your YouTube post about hoof boots and plucked up the courage to message you. You've opened my eyes so much. Thank you. You're very welcome. Dawn says, clap, clap, clap. Sarah Lou's here. Sarah, hello, it's you. Good to see you. Good to see you've joined us. It's easy to forget how far you've come and the progress you've made. It's true. Megan's here. Becky says, definitely great idea to do the challenges. It absolutely is. Okay, let us carry on with what we're talking about. Is there anybody else over there? No. Let's move on. So, what are the common problems? What are the common problems that we find when we're transitioning? What are the challenges that you're going to face, and how are you going to manage them? Even if you have the best plan in place, and we've just been talking about the best plan, haven't we? Some horses are still going to struggle more than others. It's just a fact of life, because their feet have been more messed around with than others, and they've got more damage than others. So they're not all going to transition the same. Even if you had a bunch of horses that were your own, you're taking all the shoes off, some are going to breeze it and others are going to struggle. It's just the way it is. You are likely to face hoof sensitivity. So, and it's usually temporary. Of course, it's going to be temporary. I mean, I don't go out transitioning horses and expect horses to be sore for 6 months. It's not how it's going to be. I don't even expect them to be sore for 6 weeks. You are going to experience some temporary soreness, some footiness, some I don't want to walk over, uneven surfaces, because their hooves have got to adjust. They've got to become healthy and stronger again. So what's the solution? Use hoof boots. And then after a certain amount of time, you can start riding again. Use hoof boots. And when you're turning out on rougher terrain, if your horse struggles, use hoof boots for a while. Weak collapsed heels. That's a very common thing with horses, particularly horses like thoroughbreds who are naturally low-heeled, who have been shod, and particularly at an early age. These shoes have often meant that the horse has had underrun heels. They get what we call caudal hoof failure. And the solution for that is regularly trimming and good movement to encourage that proper growth. They should not be forced into any shape other than the shape that the way that horse needs it at that time. So you again, use hoof boots if needed. You are very, very likely to experience hoof growth rates that are not in equilibrium, e.g. the front of the hoof and the back of the hoof not working going at the same rate. Some horses have had such a lot of toe removed that you have to wait a long time for those toes to get back down to the ground, and that can take forever. And while that's happening, you have to make sure you're keeping on top of the heels, because if you don't, and your farrier or your trimmer is trying to force an unnatural hoof pastern axis, oh my, that's when you're going to get into deep doo-doos, and that is when stuff happens inside the foot you don't want it to. So make sure that you are respecting that, understanding that, keeping on top of the heels, and that you are not making it worse by continually removing the toe and letting those heels go up. Okay, so that's a really big, important point. You are likely to get quite a bit of chipping because the weaker hoof is growing out. And it's not really been doing much. Plus, it's had nail holes in it, which the horn tubules are not connected in one long horn tubule to the ground anymore. They've been fractured and broken. So when those hoof touches the ground, they will chip. That's okay. And usually they chip more in the quarters, because that's suddenly where the horse is going, I didn't know. I didn't need them there. Hey, I didn't need it. I needed a little arch there. Who knew? And so the solution for that is, again, making sure that the owner knows that they can nip off some of those bits that are sticking out, smooth them down with a bit of a DIY soft spongy thing like this, which is one of those sanding blocks. It's my squeezer. Well, I'm getting stressed. And see your horse, make sure your horse has proper regular trims. And if, again, we are transitioning from really poor feet, then more regular trims until eventually that horse gets onto a better cycle. So If your horse starts to flare, you can't just take it away, because that's often a natural flare, which is a response to the way that the body has been responding to the shoes. It's just not being able to shape its foot like that. And when the shoes come off, those feet begin to show themselves. And oftentimes you'll find that those flares will start to change too as time wears on. So each horse is going to adapt differently. It's you're not the approach is still the same, really, but you are just having to nurse with a small n horses through this journey, some more than others. And it's not a reflection on you or a failure of you usually, but if it continues for a horse to continue to be sore after barefoot, then things are not right. And it's going to be usually the trim, but the diet and the management will be part of that as well. Those are the three things that are so important. So when to expect a full transition? When do you think that's going to be? Well, I think you need to set realistic expectations for how long that process is going to take, because a full transition from shoes to barefoot is going to take time. But like I said, it doesn't mean to say that they're lame for the whole time. The first 4 to 8 weeks, that initial adaptation, there's going to probably be tenderness. That's okay. We've got boots. We can cope with that. Then from 3 to 6 months going forward, you should then be past that stage, and the hoof is beginning to strengthen. That movement improves. Keeping on top of the right trim. Yeah. In 6 to 12 months, that entire hoof capsule, some, not all, depends on how much toe was removed, is beginning to fully grow through. And that's going to reveal all the time a stronger, healthier hoof. And year after year, the foot features get better and better and better. And if they're not, then things are going wrong. Barefoot success is not just about the trimming. It's not just about the diet. It's not just about the management. It's about all of those things together. And if you don't have them all as set up as best as possible, then your success rates are going to start going down, right? So today's takeaway on this session is transitioning a shod horse to barefoot is going to take time. It's going to take patience. Can't make a P. It's going to take patience, and you need the right support. Not the support of, the shoes have come off 6 months down the line, we've still got a terribly sore horse. It's not right. Something awful has gone wrong, and it's usually to do with balance that's gone wrong. You need that proper trim. You need good nutrition, species-specific nutrition, species-specific movement, friends, forage, freedom. You've heard us say this 1,000 times. But if you can't put all those in place immediately, don't let that stop you. Just keep moving towards that. You may need hoof protection, and it's usually just the front feet, just to set yourself up for real success. So if you're transitioning your horse to barefoot, you've got a friend who's transitioning their horse to barefoot, you're helping somebody go barefoot, take photos, please, before the shoes come off. Please, please. All round, bottom, back, side, front, and then take the shoes off, take more photos before the trim, and keep the shoes so that a bit later on down the line, 6 months down the line, you can put the shoe up against the foot and go, holy hell. So track those changes. And if your horse is already barefoot, why don't you share your experiences in the comments? Just share it with people that want to go barefoot, because it helps to support them, to know that you've gone through it too. Let them know what your biggest challenge was and how you overcame it. Okay, thank you for joining me, my lovely people. Today has been a good session talking about transitioning from shod to barefoot. It's important. If you have got friends who are thinking about it, ask them to have a look at this live. Okay, well done. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you thank you for liking. I know you've done that. Thank you for following. I know you've done that. Thank you for subscribing. Of course you've done that. And thank you for tagging a friend. It's really important that we keep this going 365 days. The Phoenix Way, folks, is about supporting each other, supporting the natural hoof, understanding the natural hoof, and rising together, setting ourselves and our horses up, or setting our horses up for long-term soundness. So thank you so much for being with me. I'll see you tomorrow. Double live day tomorrow. All right. Take care now. Bye-bye.